Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 24 or no 25 of the FPV Podcast. This week, I am underplanned. I am completely off schedule, and that's why we have Joe Scully because he is the master of making it happen. And
Right.
we're just gonna have fun this week, and we're just gonna talk about everything FPV and what he's been up to, and just overall bullshit for an hour, basically. Joe,
Yeah.
Like it. We'll let her dangle.
that's right.
Yeah.
Joe, introduce yourself, even though everybody knows you.
I'm Joe Scully, and as Paul Bulbafett has called me, I'm the John Madden of FPV and a race director with FPV Racing Events, my company, and very fortunate to be world traveled. And I think at this point I've done about 18 different FPV races of 30 or more entries in the last 9-10 months. So basically my life has become FPV racing, and it's been an absolute pleasure to just kind of be a part of this community and continue to be part of this ever evolving cycle as it grows.
Awesome. Yeah, and you are all over the place nowadays, which is pretty cool. So we'll definitely catch up with you. Elvin, our regular, who is really sick, so we shoved some horse pills down him, and I think he'll survive an hour. How are you holding up?
I'm doing all right. Hello, everybody. It's me, Mr. Miyagi, Team Pulse, Team Furious FPV. Yeah, I'm going to holla because I haven't done it in 2 weeks, damn it, and my sponsors need a pat on the back. So, everybody, hello. Anyway, my main sponsors I mentioned. The rest of you guys catch on. All you got to do is contact me, send me some stuff. I'll mention your name. Anyway, yes, it is for sale. It is for sale. Anyway, but hey, Joe, dude, like you've been at the biggest and the baddest races so far on the planet. I mean, even the big one was missing the Joe Scully, right? The big Dubai thing was missing the big Joe Scully. The impact that you would have had, they would have had if you was there, would have been more intense. It would have been more seen as a sanctioned kind of race, because we all kind of expect you to be there now. I mean, like you wasn't at nationals, and I mean, and I met you after that, and you wasn't at nationals, but after that, it just seemed like your voice was the voice of the director, of the race organizer, that we heard. We got used to hearing it. We like to hear it, and it's kind of like, what is that? The guys in France did something for you while you were there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely crazy how we've been just kind of the whole thing that we do. We're just kind of accepted everywhere. And when I was in France, to have Boris B, the guy who is, he is beta flight, he is air mode, to come running up to the fence and go, "You're Joe Scully, and that's so nice to meet you." I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm reading his tag. I'm like, "You're Boris B." So, it's kind of like really cool that, through FPV, the way it's gone through all this, social media and YouTube, how being viral, and now I start to have a little bit of celebrity, which is awesome, and I'm becoming a staple of races and some of the biggest races, which is really cool. And yeah, I mean, the France thing, I think, and I don't want to this week, like, I mean, even just yesterday, like I almost got emotional when I had a call from an event, and they said, "We were at a race this past weekend. We talked to all these people. We want to host an event. We talked to like all the top pilots." And he's like, every single one of them, and we at least talked to 12, said, "If you're hosting a race, you need Joe Scully there." And just,
that's right.
I just couldn't believe I was hearing this, on the other side of the phone. And when I was in France, the Boris B running up to the fence, and I'm like, "No, I'm more excited to meet you," and vice versa. And then all of a sudden, I'm like 2 days home, and I'm seeing on YouTube the Joe Scully edition Tyrannus, where all the things I say before a race are on the toggle switches, and I mean, and dating back to F3 Expo 2 with Paul Bulbafett, with with the John Madden of FPV, and I mean, just every single event has a story. And something like that. It's just been amazing. Like, it's just been such a great journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like you've built up this whole, acumen of, what you need to do to run a good race. And it's just so surprising that nobody's even attempted to try to at least catch up, and you just keep pulling ahead. So it's like, hey, some of you guys, like, you need to go to the Joe Scully school. So,
Yeah,
Joe Scully, what I'm
that's
saying,
next.
yeah, like, where's Joe Scully University? Madden's got to share his secrets,
Right,
man.
right, yeah. Madden's got to share his secrets. Got to spread the love, baby.
Well, I mean, right now, one of the other things that we've really identified is the equipment that I have and the team that I have. And this summer, I'm extremely busy. So there's been a few gigs are coming up. So I'm actually sending my team and some of my other, good alliances and allegiances in the community that, I may be at a rodeo or at another drone race, but we can send the ground stations, great race directors and great flight line directors to other events. So that's part of it. And I mean, I think a big thing is in this, the first race that we hosted was February of 2015. And then from there, we kept hosting more events. And then we got contracted for events. And from there, and we've had an open dialogue with everybody from aerial GP and multi GP and aerial GP. A lot of people forget about them, but I mean, they were the first ones to really
True
organize,
that.
right? So, I used to talk at length with Andreas, who, now has the FPV race timing system. And my first ever air gate was an aerial GP gate. So we talked a lot with them, and we shared a lot of our trials and our tribulations, and we are all learning together. And, and the big history of FPV racing, its entirety, like the U.S. Drone Nationals. And we were sitting there watching the live stream and seeing all these things going wrong and a lot of things that were right. And we're like, we don't want to do that, and we want to do this better. And, and we just, that's the way we've been doing this. And, other people, and I hate to say this, but we're at this point that we feel that there's a kind of an elitist thing. If you kind of see people that are putting on events where they haven't really paid attention to what we've been doing, and anytime that we extend an olive branch to help, or any time that these people are at our events, they're not rolling up their sleeves and in the trenches and saying, ooh, wow, how are you doing this? Like, how did Chris Thomas and Joe Scully put 13 heats through at like 10 o'clock at night in the mega caverns in Louisville, Kentucky, 5 minutes, 6 seconds cycle times that Chris had never done and Scully had never done? How did they do those 13 races in less than 90 minutes? How is that possible? And I think just people are just looking around and just a blind eye to what we're doing. And I mean, it isn't just me. Like I work a lot with multi GP, and there's if you ever get a chance to go to one of their races and some of their big stuff down in the Southeast, there's a flight line director, Sarai, and her husband is actually Abel, who's Navahawk, who's the fastest pilot in Florida, I think. I don't think anyone's unseen him, but there's a lot of people gunning for him. And, even, their model of having that second person, that flight line director, and just with her alone, no matter who the race director is, they can turn it over in 7 minutes, like 7 minutes. And that is green to green. That is a cycle time that people like myself and Chris Thomas and all these other, chapters of groups like this is what we focus on. It all turns into the pilot experience. It all turns into having great equipment. It all turns into, there's all these benefits that you see, like, working at the Mega Drone X, which is a huge win right now. It's the most watched live stream of a drone race in North America. That stat is still there. It is the most amount of entries that our FPV race has ever had at over 210. 81 pilots. It's the third highest grouping of pilots ever in North America, fourth in the world maybe. It's so record setting, and all these little things stem down to pounding those heats through and all the things that we do to do that. And I think I just feel that other people, like, we're having discussions about ground stations and stuff, and it's like, it's like we're attacking the community right now. We're like, no, we're watching other events. We're not like going to drop our playbook, because right now, if an event goes, let's say an event happens, and let's say that pilots go, let's say they have 90 pilots. Let's just make some numbers up here. And those pilots roll into the grounds at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. So that is a total of 16 hours. And over those 16 hours, they only fly 3 lipos a day. Now, you wouldn't think that's a good stat. And then you let's say the same race gets a do-over the next day, and they tighten it up to 11 and a half hours, but those pilots only do another 3 packs a day. We look at it from a Mega Drone X experience where in an 11-hour time period, we're turning over our pilots. They're getting a minimum 9 packs at an event with 80-plus pilots. And that's the pilot experience. And I mean, that just, it's kind of frustrating where this is what we focus on. All this other stuff is great. The commentary, the jokes, the camaraderie, the live stream with stats. The first time that has ever been done in a live stream, Mega Drone X, 9,500 views, of course. It all stems down to like the little work that we do, and that's what we focus on. And, at the same time, we have competitors, and again, it's job security. We have competitors that don't even use timing systems, so right. I think that's the thing is, I think if we're going to grow as an industry, yes, there's some people that, I'm a political dude, as you know, Mr. Miyagi. I'm a political dude, but you know what? Listen to what we're saying, and let's extend those olive branches and let's grow together. Right. You mentioned Dubai, and I kind of laughed there. We had a crazy relationship with Dubai, and many people had thrown our name in there, but they were confident.
But let me stop you there, because I don't want to get into kind of like tossing the negative horseshoe at somebody. You know what I mean? I kind of want to stay on the positive thing where if they had you, it would have been better. There's no doubt about it, and everybody in the community can back that up and say that, because you are one of the focal head points of FPV at this moment, right? I mean, we've had our big bad boys. Trappy came in, and everybody hated Trappy for a long time, and was like, "Oh, that guy, he did it. He got us in trouble. Now we're in trouble because he flew at some places where he had permission to fly, but you broke a little rule. You bent somebody's penis. Somebody's gonna get mad, right? Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. But in all, Trappy is the type of person where he's doing a lot of things on the innovation type side, right? So they're doing a lot of things out front, way out front before everybody else. So they're going down the line and trying to stay focused on that line and about innovation, which is a great point, but when you expand and things are expanding as fast as this business and the sport is, you stumble. So companies are going to make stumbles. They're going to stumble. They're going to have, issues with products and stuff like that. But
it's actually kind of interesting in which
go ahead.
Yeah, no, even at the Mega Drone X, there weren't just pilots there, right? Some of the pilots were actually event organizers too. Right. And I went over there and I talked to them, and I was like, "So, what do you think?" And almost every one of them, to a T, says, "The next event I have, I need a Joe Scully." I'm not saying they were going to get you, but they definitely wanted a Joe Scully. They wanted that personality. They want a person that's pushing the forefront of what it means to actually present this to the audience, because that's like a big thing we're missing, because all the pilots will come, but the audience isn't coming. To get those 9,500 views takes a lot of work, and that's
it. I mean, you look at California Cup. So the California Cup was the record in North America. I think maybe XDC2 was just above it or below it, but California Cup had 77,000 or 7,700 views of their live stream. And AirViews had paid $3,000 to advertise it, and we exceeded it. Now, how did we exceed it? And again, it was an amazing venue. Our turnover time was pretty quick, for the most part there. And so you weren't sitting there with the boredom, which we know kills.
And a lot of pilots was ready too. That was was another thing. It was a lot of guys came prepared. We got to give the pilots that, because we had issues with at nationals, guys coming up on the line with a damn near dead battery. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we still get that everywhere. And
right. You're gonna get your amateurs.
Yeah, exactly. And I've come up with a really cool format, because I've thought a lot on where we, every event, even though, let's all admit it, Mega Drone X was a home run.
Grand slam.
Yeah, for every component of it. But I still tore it apart, and I'm like, how did we lose so much time on Sunday? And I've already like identified a whole new thing on how we can tighten up events with our format and make it a little bit better for everybody, from the pro pilots to the noobs. And I can get into that real briefly, which I think is an outstanding idea. And I've bounced it off some of our pro pilots as well. They think it's a great idea, and I'm sure the noobs will as well. But we tear it apart and we look at it, and I think it was such a good package, and it can get better. But I mean, we reach out and we try and talk to so many other groups, and it doesn't have to be me personally, but you need a really good sharp race director. And yes, you need someone that can go along and entertain. And the thing that is, I always laugh about, how would I clone myself? And I've tried, even with my company, FPV Racing Events.
Well, you got kids. That didn't go out too well, did it?
Yeah, he's. I don't know if you noticed, my boy's 5.5. It's 10 o'clock at night, and he's still up rocking with me. So yeah, he's on the same schedule as I am. Go.
I got one of those too.
But I mean, like, what I do is, and it comes from 15 years of rodeo announcing, and that is, if I can entertain the participant, I can entertain the spectator. And rodeo is obviously a spectator based thing, where we have crowds of 3,000, and when I do Monster Jam, I have crowds of 40,000, and if you can entertain a monster truck driver, you can entertain the kid. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where that's always been my focus in rodeo, and I've studied that as a craft. And then as a race director, it's the same sort of thing. Now, in FPV racing and even RC car racing, who am I talking to the whole time? The participants, maybe their girlfriends. And it sounds kind of weird, but a race where I'm at, whether it's RC or FPV, the girlfriends and the wives stay longer, because it's just my nature of I talk in very general terms. I was on from France, this Boris B video of his freestyle, and and I'm getting flamed by these freestylers. And unfortunately, I was logged into my FPV Racing Events account instead of the Joe Scully account. But I'm like going right back at these haters, and they're like, "Oh, that commentator though, is he strip club DJ?" And it's like, I'm not going to give them all the excuses that this was the second 14-hour day. I'd already gotten a huge ass screaming match with the FAI. I had no voice. It was like painful for me to do that freestyle, but and I did a freestyle because I was entertaining 400 people that are on this flight line that didn't know what was going on, that aren't FPV racers. And so and Boris B ripped the audio from the DVR, put it on his HD, and was like, "We have to play this. The Joe Scully version is awesome." He loves it. And then you got these, the YouTube flamer haters, right? And it's like, no, what I do is, if I start explaining what an ESC does, and no longer a noob is going to be like, Scully doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, yeah. It's kind of like a throttle control, and he's going to tune me out. But what, all of a sudden, like, ain't no longer a noob's girlfriend. If she's there, it'd be like, what is that thing he's always talking about? Or, and I do it in a way, like, and I ask questions, that I find it interesting, and I come at it with such a weird perspective. So yes, I'm not talking to the core fan, because the core fan already knows what an ESC is.
Yes.
And they're just waiting for the next heat. And, and so that's where, in the Boris B freestyle, he's going up and down, and I'm kind of doing it, like a strip club DJ, like with ups and downs with the energy, trying to go with the music and what Boris B is doing. And then at the same time, I want to make sure that everyone knows the time. Like, that's a big thing, even in freestyle. He's at the midway point, 90 seconds in, 90 seconds to go.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, like, you could just tell my rhythm I was going to say something in a smart ass. So all of a sudden, Boris B goes upside down over the freestyle structure, which looked just like the one from F3 Expo. And I'm like, there he is. He's close. Just the tip to see how it feels, and then right into the rhythm, I do that. I do that for numerous reasons. I want to make sure that people can tell when I change my rhythm, I'm either going to say something really important or something really smart ass. But that helps with everything. That entertains the girlfriends. It entertains the people on the live stream. It entertains the pilots that are sitting there 14 hours on end. If they're all pitting on that flight line. I want like a pro pilot, and it's something I'm always crafting, but I want them to be able to tune me out. Like, I will actually do it in a way that I want them to tune me out and then I'll do something to get them to tune back in. And it's kind of like I don't have a switch to all the different people that I'm talking to, of all the things I'm trying to achieve, but it's something that I study, and the smart ass stuff is a big one. Like, and a Mega Drone X, one of my favorite ones that came up in the FPV chat, which is a Slack chat run by Bulbafit and Hype and all those cool dudes. One of the quotes that they loved is in the Mega Drone X, and I'm in the auctioneer chant because we have like 8 going across the gate. And I'm like, this guy's going across, and he's running in the 5 with a 55.5, and it's like 555, $5 footlongs, and we won't even touch your kids. You know?
Hey everybody, it's FPV Fly Girl with your tip of the week. Here to talk to you about a couple non-traditional items that I keep in my crash box. One is clear nail polish, and the other is nail clippers. The clear nail polish works really well to secure screws and keep them in place, almost as good as Loctite. And your nail clippers work perfectly to cut the zip tie ends. And also, you don't have to lug around a pair of scissors. One word of caution about nail polish: it is really flammable until it's dry, so keep it away from the heat shrink and the lighters until you know for sure. That's it for now, and I'll catch you next time. Have a great flight.
The only thing I remember is, like, every single time I walked by, you were always making a smart ass comment about the printer, and I was like, it's like, he's never gonna let me live that down. He's like,
well, and the funny thing is, like, the printer was a thing that it's an ongoing joke from XDC2 in Las Vegas, where we were waiting on the track to be finished and stuff like that, and then I'm like, all right guys, we'll get you those heat sheets as soon as I have a printer. And like, I didn't have a printer for a day and a half into that thing, right? And so someone, like, we had questions coming up in pilot meeting, and I'm like, well, everything's online. And they're like, oh, we don't have Wi-Fi in here because Wi-Fi's turned off. I'm like, well, when we get a printer. And I'd said printer so many times that I'm like, okay, next time I say printer, I'm buying the closest person to me a beer. And so, yeah, so every time I bring up the printer, like, all those guys joke because it's like, I'm the printer diva, you know?
Dude,
and
you love your printers.
I know. And what upset us on the Mega Drone X, it was originally going to be me and David French. And then we looked at the quantity of pilots. We knew it was going to be a lot of work. And then just what we were trying to accomplish, because I'm also working with FPVLive.tv on the stats and stuff. And then my video guy, Viking, who does a lot of work here in Canada for us, he's like, oh, I might want to go on that trip. I'm like, you're in. So we
volunteered. Suck.
Voluntold. Let's go to Kentucky. And so we got so I drive a van. It's a 2-seater. David French drives a Hyundai, and it just wouldn't fit all their gear. And then Viking drives like a Neon. So, you know, we have not. I had to rent a new car to go down there to accommodate the 3 of us, plus all of our equipment. So
Wow.
I finally get down, I get the rental car, and I just got everything in there, and my printer, which I love, my laser printer. And, you know, I just put it right on the seat, and I'm like, well, it's Viking or the printer. And so the printer got to stay home, and then, yeah. And so, I mean, it's so funny, like a diva thing. And I think, you know, messing around with the printer only cost us like 35 minutes at one point. You know, it's such a minute thing, like a first world problem. When we look at other events starting 3.5 hours late, and we were like 55 minutes late, but that includes our pilot meetings. So really, like 30, like, it's such a minute thing in the greater scheme of things. And the issue was, you know, I had a Windows 7 computer and the printer didn't recognize it. But yeah, so I mean, yeah. But I love the printer.
No, he was not saying that. I'm sorry, guys. He was not saying that.
I can vouch for that. That was not the comments we heard.
Yeah,
it
I
was
walked by.
Explicit. There was some explicit stuff being said toward the printer that it could not act on. It just could not act on. None of that. None of what he said. None of it.
It didn't know what I was trying to put in its USB slot. I was like,
oh,
it was bad. But you know what? Of all of the things that that could go wrong, that's actually a very solvable one. And also,
oh, yeah,
another pro tip: if you're an event organizer and you think Wi-Fi is going to work at an event with 80 pilots and 80 smartphones, it will never happen.
No.
Will never happen. Okay, I don't care if you got a gigabit Ethernet. It's not going to work.
No, not with 80 pilots all running 256K download link. Oh, Jesus.
Well, of course, when you have a sexy venue like the Megadrone X was, it's a race for that first GoPro video. So they're all, with their 4K video trying to upload it at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it was.
It was terrible. I was like, wow, that Wi-Fi didn't last very long. But you know what? Hey, you know what? Current events before we move on is that, so Joe, how do you like your national publicity of NBC? Your 5 seconds of fame.
Well, you're right. 5 seconds of fame, 2 seconds of me rambling some stats, and 3 seconds of my ass. Really nice shot. And Viking's bald head. I didn't realize he was bald at the back like that, but he was.
Damn.
You know that the NBC thing, it was a great piece. And I mean, an amazing piece. And the part that I loved wasn't even the piece, was just as soon as the piece is over and they go to everyone sitting on the couch there, Carson Daly and Matt Lauer and all that, and they're all just like, wow, that was great. Oh my gosh, yeah, those goggles are crazy. And it was just, that was like, boom, that's FPV racing. Like, mic drop right there.
Yep.
That's what I liked about it.
Yeah, the footage was actually really good too, and it was really nice for them to actually show something that would actually be engaging while they're actually talking about it. Because a lot of times they talk about drone racing, it's like this one little thing walking by, you're like, that's not going to interest anybody at all.
No, that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mr. Miyagi. I mean, you were on that too. You're a star on NBC now.
Your 3 seconds of fame of your feet.
Yeah, my feet and me laughing. Well, that's. Hey, look, my parents had some things to say they wasn't pretty happy about.
Come on, you only wasted an hour of your time for 3 seconds of your shoes.
Yeah, flying, and all that. My parents is like, you helped out, sure did. Yeah, that's all you did? Wow. I'm like, Dad, I was there for an hour. We was there early. Everybody, it was me and 6 other people in the whole place and them guys. And my dad says, but, so, did you talk to the guy? I'm like, yeah. He's like,
woke up early just to do that.
Did the other guy know that you flew? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'll take your word for it. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm not happy about it. I'm like, I thought a little brother love was going to spread a little bit, like, focusing on the brother a little bit, but that didn't happen. It was like omitted.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you know what?
At least my sponsor got this, the Toretto was used, so
that's true.
That was the Toretto 130 was used, so people got to see that, even though they got to see it handle a crash. And the other thing is that I was in my Pulse uniform and with my shirt on, so.
It's a win.
They were happy. Win. Yeah, so they're happy. I'm happy. We continue on until October, the next year.
In all honesty, I don't even know the length of that video. I think it was only like 3.5 minutes, but all of a sudden that thing had like every little finite point in there. Like you had the storyline with the brain drain and this and the location and it's new technology and here's the technology and here's how easy it is. It was just all that stuff just slim jimmed in there. So, your 3, 5, 6 seconds there, that's like a minute of like Hollywood time. So
yeah.
It was actually really funny.
Yeah,
and it goes back to the printer, which was great too.
Right, yeah, back to the toner. The toner. Damn, that was cold. And I was like, I could see that happening, dude. I could see that happening. Dude, like coming home and you like the new innovation, the champ, and then somebody says, "Hey, dude, can I get a Big Mac and a vanilla shake?" You know what I mean? Life is back where it was.
If I
Yeah.
had more time, I would print a T-shirt that says, "Hey, world champion, get the toner and give it to Brain Giant because I'm going to see him this week."
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
He'd
that would
love
be
it.
great.
You should buy some toner for him.
Oh, that'd be great. That should be his prize.
No, just go up with like an empty one. Like, hey, you got another one for this?
Yeah, I need a refill.
That's what I gotta find a T-shirt. Now that's my goal. Oh man. Okay. Anyways, hey, let's move on. FPV Air Show France. You did like the biggest event over in Europe today. Is that true? Am I making shit up?
Biggest event. I mean, it sounds like I'm Vince McMahon of the WWE. How I just kind of go, oh, this was the biggest ever, and this was this stat, and this is this stat. But
At least
it was
sound like Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Not
It's
my
going to be the
president.
biggest ever, and we're going to make them pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah, at least he has more hair than me, so I can't talk bad about him. Over there, 173 individual entries, like 173 pilots.
crazy.
So that's the largest grouping ever. And now we did split that over 2 days. So like half qualified, practice and qualified one day, the other practice and qualified the other. And we were able to give them 4 packs during daylight hours and like another 5 packs after dark. So 173 pilots, basically about 7 packs a day.
That's
and
amazing.
then some. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, yeah, when there's other events that are doing 3 packs a day, or there's some that are doing 1 a day, like there are some overseas
All
there
right,
where
Joe.
they did
All right,
they did
Joe.
6
All
over a
right,
week.
Joe. Come on, Joe. Be positive, Joe.
But as Mr. Miyagi says, well, we're focusing on the positive. But yeah, no, it was insane because it was such a huge throughput of pilots, and we had a daytime course and we had an FPV Light Tracks to Europe course, which was FPV Light Tracks, but David and Kyle of FPV Light Tracks, they came over. They got so screwed by UPS. They were there on the 2nd of May, and their gear didn't show up until like the 10th of May, and the event was on like the 13th. So they were so screwed. It was customs and it was just like any other FPV race. I start every pilots meeting. I've never seen one start on time and I've never seen one end on time. But today we're going to try and get the closest to both. And I've never seen FPV Light Tracks get set up on time, and they were almost able to pull off the impossible. And I was very excited to see at twitch.tv/Flight Factory on the weekend that at 5 minutes before they were supposed to start pilot meeting, David Mokwe was already zipping around on his little unicycle thing. He was done. So congrats to David. He's finally ahead of the curve on that setup. But I mean, they were screwed. So I mean, we were on one night passing around wine and cigars and Jägermeister, and myself, Night Fury, Stevie Wonder, and Ponytail Guy from Australia, which is Strepto, Mark Coquino, flying mate of Final Glide Os, who is also my roommate. The 4 of us, I call this Team NATO, and we were building FPV Light Tracks gates. And there was literally guys from the French army building FPV Light Tracks gates. And I think there was like 140 pieces that all of us over the course of this time had built in our spare time, plus everything else that we needed to do. And we had a lot of new technology with immersionRC, which I can touch on, that we had to test and tune and put in place. And so when it came to Saturday night, we finished, all of our qualifying was done, and then all of a sudden, we had a little gala. A funny little story at that I can tell you in a minute too from the gala, but that's done, and all of a sudden we go out there, and the flight line is up, lights are up, Light Tracks is up, and we just kept going until 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a sudden we come around for like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning for our mains. And then we had our entire day Sunday at championship racing and freestyle and yada, yada, yada awards. And then all of a sudden the sun comes down and there's FPV Light Tracks, and we go until 3 o'clock in the morning again. I slept for 2 hours and then left to catch on my plane. I slept on the plane ride home. but it was like so cool to basically have a 24-hour track. And it was just so amazing that, with that amount of pilots, so and everyone had such a great experience that, we were able to do such great throughput of, an average of 7 packs a day with that number, which is just incredible. Like that exceeds all odds. Now, the technology that we worked with, there's 2 things. The first easy one is the lap RF, which is a transponderless timing system. And so when you cross over the start finish line, it shoots to the scoring computer your frequency. And my scoring computer, it took us hours to get this to work, but my scoring system looks at transponder numbers, which are 7-digit numbers from track meter ILAPs. So we would take a 5800 Fat Shark 1 or whatever. We would take that as a transponder number, and so it would go in my scoring system, because every heat we know which pilot is on what channel. Right. And so you don't need a transponder. When you have video, your transponder is good. Yeah. When you cross, now think
that's
back
why
to
it makes sense, right? That's why it makes a lot of sense.
Did it ever skip?
It missed a couple because it still needed to be calibrated and so forth. So it missed the top right, and we had one where we had a quad of the final race. The winner, he was leading by 6 seconds into the final lap, and he came through this freestyle structure to the start finish line, and there was like a 6x6 truss at the bottom, and this guy, he was leading by like 6 seconds, and he hit the 6x6 truss, which was basically in the dirt, and boom, toasted his quad, black screen, his camera's toast, his VTX still alive, and he tumbles and he stops like 8 inches from the start finish line. So even though he has this new Super VTX, that thing is bleeding like a mofo. It's right on top of the sensor that's, shooting, looking for the different VTXs. And then another guy crosses on his own, so second becomes first. And then the guys that were battling out for third, it's now a battle for, second. Third. They cross
third
over.
And fourth.
Yeah, they cross over on top of each other. Like, bam, like that. So it missed the one guy. And so then, the leader is now out. He didn't hit the finish line. So he's before. Now these guys are all crossing over in front. That's where the numbers get weird. And then this other guy comes choking along. So we missed, it was like pandemonium, because it's France, the French and Spanish and English, 3 languages.
They're all coming at each other.
It was like this, it was this amazing ending. And I'm
Canadian hellhole.
Oh yeah, this is hell, dude. This is like everything. This is like I went from an amazing event to like, oh my god, what just happened? And,
the French talking about I cut you.
and I'm like, on the, I'm on the mic, and to my flight line director or race marshal, whatever. I'm like, I need the judges. I need all the judges, because we did, after you raced, you judged, and everyone had a stopwatch, and you counted the laps, and so. There was a few people we caught missing gates, and if someone did miss the gate, because we're still testing this system, so we'd like, how many laps that guy do? We have 2. Oh, you have 3? Okay, that's weird. All right, we'll write it down, and then while the next race is going, we're in the DVR going, oh, he hit it top right corner, or oh, he missed the gate entirely, so yeah, it really only missed 1 or 2. It was way outperformed infrared at any venue I have. But anyway, so the pandemonium is happening. I'm like, I need the judges. Well, all of a sudden, there's media, and they are doing a scrum. And all I'm thinking is, I don't want a World Drone Prix on my hands, right? Like, I want the answer. Well, you got to think, I'm sponsored by Immersion. We got all this new Immersion gear. I can't say, we can't tell you who the winner is. We need a 30-minute break, or whatever it was. I think they're an hour in World Drone Prix, whatever they were. I'm like, we need this answer now. And so I have like officials like from the FAI, and I have our Immersion engineering team, and we're just puzzled, like, what just happened? And so now we're on the DVR, and we're like, bang, 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 trying to figure this thing out. And so the media scrum is coming in. The judges are gone, so that's not an option. All we have is the DVR box, and thankfully the piece of paper from the printer, right? And I'm just trying to, and I can usually read those things upside down and try and figure stuff out. And so then I'm like, okay, now we're just going to pop to this DVR, and I'm like, okay, this guy, and we're just going to verify And I'm like, ba-bang, ba-bang, ba-bang. And I'm seeing where guys are, and I'm just verifying the points. And I'm like, well, this guy is out. And so I verified everything except I had one mess up, because this is France, this is Europe, everything's in PAL. My DVR is in PAL mode. It's the same DVR I use at Mega Drone X and my Canadian events. It's a badass DVR, but it's in PAL mode. Night Fury, top qualifier to the show, is in NTSC and can't change.
Gets all fuzzy stuff. Yep.
Yeah, he can't change anything, and so he like crashes and wrecks out and sits out there for 2 laps. And so when I'm on fire, Kent Durgensen or whatever from the Netherlands, he crossed over top of him on that final lap. It put his video at a sync. Oh. So when I'm like hitting buttons, you know, it put a delay in there. So when I'm like, he's 4th, this other guy's 3rd, and there's your podium. And already, they've already done the dance and the victories, and guys have been riding around on shoulders. And I'm like, what has happened? Oh, luckily,
Steve Harvey.
And dude, you got to remember, I've ran the best event of my life to this point, right? Like I'm ready to just mic drop this thing. So luckily, however everyone had done this whole celebration, they had figured out 1st and 2nd. Now in hindsight, how the hell they figured 1st and 2nd, because they almost crossed over top of each other, I don't know. But 1st and 2nd were correct. When we did the official podium thing, the 3rd and 4th were wrong. And so I actually did a full recreation of the video, and I was able to prove it. And I still have the full master to do, which is going to be totally badass. It's my Spielberg piece that I've been working away on. But yeah, it was like, you know, this thing.
We all know you were sweating bullets.
Oh my gosh, like. Yeah, I had like no voice to begin with, kind of thing, and it was like my butthole was up in my throat too. You know, I'm like,
I'm about to get 170 pilots mad at me if you can get it wrong.
And I mean, you're not even in your country. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna get my ass deported.
At least the good thing is you can speak, at least understand the language.
Oh yeah, and that was the cool thing. Like, so you know, I could understand a lot and get my point across, but where I ended up losing my voice, there's a couple things where when we got into like the real day, Sunday, is we did it at a bracket of eliminations. So the 64 round, the long round, so 173 down to 64, and they all ran in heats of 8. And then when 4 would advance to the next race, the next round, the quarterfinal round, the round of 32, right? And then from there, the semi-final round of 16, and then the final round of 8. So when they're all of a sudden, you know, there are guys that only do 2 laps, and I'm like, check mark, check mark, check mark, and I would advance them. And then there are other guys, and this is per the FAI rules, if they crashed on their last lap and didn't complete their last lap, they were out. And so, you know, I'm moving it along, and the seeds had all been, you know, 1st and 2nd will never meet in a bracket situation until the finals, because you qualify them, and they earn the right to be a part. And this was like a whole argument that I had with the FAI and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, so now all these pilots are pissed that they're getting eliminated because they did 2 laps, but they're seeing other pilots that advance with 2 laps. And I'm like trying to explain to them, like, you qualified with pilots like you, you know, these guys qualified with fast pilots. And so, you know, by the time the guy did 3 and he was done his 3rd final lap, these guys are on their last lap. And then, you know, that was getting so lost in the translation. And so then I'm like, okay. And then I'm like doing diagrams, and like, I must explain it 15 times. And I'm like, when the leader goes on to his final, and I'm doing like the flag thing, but I don't have a flag in my hands, so it would look so weird. And the leader, when le pilote meilleur est sur son dernier lap, and when he's on his last lap, comme ça, le dernier, c'est peut-être fini in a moment. Tu comprends? Oui, you understand? Almost last lap, white flag, you know, flag blanc. Tu comprends? Oui. And then so they're like, yes, and I'm like, tout ensemble, all the pilots go on to their last lap. And they're like, oh, okay. So I'm like, oh my God. And then like we had this meltdown with this FAI director, and I mean a screaming match. At one point,
Joe, the icer.
Yeah.
This guy was, I don't know. His heart was in the right place, but he didn't understand racing. He didn't understand the rules he was there to enforce. And he shut us down for an hour and 40 minutes between that 64 round and the quarterfinal round. So wow. Now that I say that, you can understand why I would have completely lost my temper. And it was on numerous things. And then the stumbling block at this point was, if we had a grid, and so we didn't get, like, someone crashed out, and he disqualified some dudes for freestyle and stuff like that. You can't freestyle during a race. Big no-no. Pablo. Yeah. Parrot is like second highest sponsor of this thing. Parrot pilot is Padro. You probably know Padro, the chubby guy with ponytail, always wears flip-flops. Mm-hmm. He freestyled. He did an aileron roll after he crossed the finish line. FAI guy, whoa, you're out. Done. Disqualified him. Yeah,
Dang.
Dude.
Dang,
roll?
dude.
Yeah.
Just a roll. Dude. It's not like he went inverted and up through the upright or nothing.
No, he's not.
Wow.
He's not. Man, he did a roll, and so then now, I'm kind of like, I'm the orchestra of this gong show. I kind of run things. And Anthony Cake of immersionRC, Tony Cake, he's kind of like the head dog of this whole thing. Then there's Hervé, the marketing director, the godfather of racing and all that. He's like the head of the show.
No comp.
Yeah, no comp. So I'm putting kerosene on this fire, dude. I'm like, I put it on slow motion on my DVR on big screen all through the pits and the flight line. And I'm like, Tony Cake. And he's like, what? I'm like, this is freestyle, like that. And he does, and it plays, and it's just like an aileron roll. And he's like, what? I'm like, hold on. Let's see that again. Ready for Pablo, the master of freestyle. Like that. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that just disqualified him. He's like, oh no. And it's like the screaming match. But even though it seems crazy for us, in the FAI's defense, and URSA as well, the European Rotor Sports Association, in the pilot meeting, they said in English, Spanish, and French, no freestyles, no rolls, no nothing. So they did say it. So he was disqualified, and we just kind of let it go at that.
Right.
Kind of got to do it.
The rules are there for a reason, and they must be followed. They can be bent, but they must be followed, right?
Hey, you know what? There was a butterfly, dude. There was a butterfly. He had to roll away from it,
Right. I
tell you
I was all excited and I almost crashed. It was my recovery.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring up
argument,
that point. Yeah, keep going.
So this hour and 40-minute argument was, so if we didn't fill the whole grid, who moves on? And so he'd originally explained to me that you go back to all your qualifiers, and so all your qualifying list, and whoever didn't advance from that round, you pick the next guy. So I'd built my brackets, we're ready to go. And he says, no. And that's what they say in France, and I freaking hate it. No. So it's like, you don't do that. And so then we had this whole discussion. This is where the big screaming match really happened. And he's like, you go to 65th, 66th, 67th, 68th, and they fill the position. And I'm like, that makes no sense. And so in French and English, he spoke mostly French. And I was like trying to explain to him, like, these people are probably on planes. Like, they may not even be in Marseille anymore, dude. Like, they're not coming back to race. That makes absolutely no sense what you're saying. And it's like, no. Oh, so it's just like this huge fight. So at one point, I go to the FAI guy and the European Rotor Sports Association guy, who is like second or third command at immersionRC as well. And I look at the two of them. And at one point, I'd explained it to the French dude 3 times. The other dude, the URSA dude, twice. And they asked me the same question, and now it's third and fourth. And I look at both of them like, you guys have 30 seconds to make a decision. Or either you guys are leaving, and not just the flight line, you're leaving the property, or I am. They're like, Scully, no. I'm like, nope. You have 25 seconds. And honestly, this is at like the hour and a half mark. And so I didn't have too much of a hissy fit, but I was leaving. I was going to get Hobby King to drive me to my hotel and then in their golf cart. And then I ended up blowing steam on the, I had a foot race between Brain Drain and Stevie Wonder, and Night Fury was the girl in the Daisy that started it.
Yes.
And I blew my steam, and eventually his decision was made. And an hour and 45 minutes later, we ended up going with the highest qualifier in the bracket where we didn't fill, like the heat of 8 that we didn't fill the 4, the highest qualifier of the remaining would move up.
Okay.
Which totally screwed anyone Anglophone, but I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't there I was just there to hit buttons, you know what I mean, at that point.
You know,
Right.
So yeah, that was crazy. That was probably the biggest negative, but again, the positives, 103. And then the new VTX system too.
yeah.
Right.
We'll talk about that in a second. So, like, I think here's the interesting thing, right? Is that, and this is just from my experience, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, okay? So, but I do want to interject my opinion on this.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimers, yes, disclaimers. When you run any type of event, the person closest to the actual running of said event. So in this case, Joe Scully is the race director. Okay, he's been doing this for umpteen hours, right? And then to have something happen in which he has no power to make the ultimate decision, even though he's the person with the most information to actually make the decision, but then he has to now background fill 5 other people so that they can think about it to hold up an event an hour, makes absolutely no freaking sense. It's better
in 3 languages.
In 3 languages. It's better to make a suboptimal decision to continue on than to actually make 170 pilots wait an hour and a half, because that's just stupid.
You know, in French, there's a couple of things you can do with your thumb to explain the whole situation. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Like, I mean, like,
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Like in the Megatron X, there were there were stuff where like Scully made a decision, and I thought to myself, I wouldn't have made that decision, but I didn't go up to Scully and says, "Hey, stop! I don't like that decision." That made no sense. He was running it, I left him alone. It's like, and then we'll go back and like if we do another event, it's like, Scully, I didn't like this way. Let's change it up to where this is how I would like to run the event, okay? Because it's my event, but like once the on button gets pushed, it's his show to run,
right?
Because he's the person on the ground.
That's the director. That's what that's
my
people,
line,
right?
But like let's let the race director do some directing, because if I'm not doing any directing, then I'm just a racer, and that means I'm with the rest of you clowns, and I don't like that.
Okay. Now that I've managed to piss off all of France, sorry France, I'm sorry, but let's talk.
No, they were really cool about it, and everyone understood it, and they understood, and it was basically this one guy, and that one guy literally had all the authority. Like he was like, nope, stop. And
FAI is a very powerful man in France. So, I mean, it's like Urcha here, right? I mean, it's like the Urcha guys. It's like
oh no, this guy is like FAA and AMA combined.
Yeah, right. Well, I was going to say you. Yeah, wow. You can be done for the year. Done.
Yeah.
Yep, I understand.
And so you're explaining to that dude, and then even like Tony Cakes, we all had our temper tantrums at this point, and he's like, this guy is the professional. Like, we brought him here to be the professional, to make the decision. Mm-hmm. So he will make the decision. You guys are all talking craziness, and he knows. Like, he's the guy who runs races. Like, and even that, and it's like, I've been in some precarious situations, and I have a guy here in Canada who's like a lifelong MotoGP guy. Anything 2-wheel, he's raced it, and and I call that guy. He's the guy who actually ran the RC track that got me into this whole thing, and has taught me everything I know pretty much about racing. And I've had to rely on him. But I mean, the decisions that I was making were based on the rules that were told to me, the rules as I read them, and just, you know, what makes sense in racing, you know, and that was the frustrating part. Like, you know, like, and this FAI guy was like, nope, those guys who did 2 laps, they don't advance. I'm like, yep, they advance, they finish their race, you know, and so that was an argument. And so hilariously, this guy at the whole thing, and I mean, I wanted to kill him. This guy, he actually, dude, and I'm not a violent person, but you can, like, I am, dude. I just lost it. This guy, he gave me a Facebook friend request. We are Facebook friends, and there is an actual
Joe
picture.
Does not decline anybody on Facebook.
No, come on in. I don't care.
That's how he has 3
care.
billion friends on Facebook.
There's only a few people in FPV that are not my Facebook friends, and you know who they are already. So, and so there is a picture, and I tagged him in the picture because, you know, this guy put up the photo, and so I tagged myself, and there's one of the cool pilots from Italy in the background. I tagged him. Stevie Wonder's in the back. I tagged him, and this French judge dude that drove me nuts, I tagged him. And you can see in the picture, you can't tell that I'm just about ready to drop an F-bomb, but I'm like, I know what I'm saying. Just the way my hand is down in this picture, I'm like saying this mofo and pointing at him in the picture. And so there's our memory together, our Facebook friends. So, you know, a year down the road when, you know, Facebook does that, you know, you've been this friends with this guy for a year. That picture comes up of me going, this mofo over here.
And you can go back and you can have a drink with him and says, remember that argument that we had?
Yeah. So imagine the frustrations, Wyatt, and you've seen me where someone comes up and says something, and my eyes just go cross, and I have to bite my tongue sometimes. And I'm Irish, and I'm pretty good with my temper because, you know, when I lose my cool, the whole thing loses its cool, right? So
right, because you're representing more than just yourself. Now, you know, you're representing the community too. So.
And every event, regardless of what it is, you will never see me run. Obviously, you know, well, I had a foot race there, but you won't see me run because, you know, if all of a sudden I look panicked, especially in the announcer capacity, then the crowd gets panicked and everyone's like, what's going on? And, you know, and like that. So, you know, I take things as well as I can. And my answers are usually short and sweet and snappy. And yeah, I come off like a dick like that, but I'm the directing part. That's the director of me.
That's a lot of stress right there. Yeah, definitely though.
There's,
you know?
And with this thing, and so like you said, you know, we'll have a drink, you know. So I've had so many arguments with this guy. I've wanted to hate him. I've tried to like up and down with this dude. I could tell you a million stories. Like we started off on the wrong foot, me and this guy, like on Friday morning. Like just this is not a good relationship. And so at the end, we go at the very end of this thing. It's like, oh, you know, it's good. Yeah, at the very end of this thing. We're like at the very end of this thing, he's like, oh, you know, you do a good job, he says. And I'm like, you know what? I understand we had our differences, and I could tell, you know, you got the passion, man, and you got the passion, and I got the passion. We're just trying to do the right thing. Some things got lost in the translation, but you know what? We got it done. And, you know, I think the right person won. And you know what? There's a lot of tension here. And I would just, you know, we should go out and, you know, tonight when this is all done, let's have a drink together. He's like, okay, but I don't drink. And I'm like, of course you don't.
Of course you don't. I mean,
you did not say that, dude. Did you? Did you actually say that, dude?
I did, dude. I was done. I was done.
Oh man. Joe Scully making friends across Europe.
Every connection point we just failed.
And he's still Facebook friends with him.
Right.
Yeah, we're still Facebook friends. I'm gonna, I hope I'll poke him shortly, and then I'll wish him a happy birthday. I wished Tim Nilsson to get FPV a happy birthday on Monday. If you didn't, wish him a happy belated as well. Love the birthday, the happy birthdays on Facebook walls, and I can't wait for that dudes. Not Tim Nilsson's, the French dudes. No, I mean everything. Like honestly, the same. And we talked about, you know, all these pilots that are recommending me and the relationships that we have, and it's just been, it's been awesome. Like, I'm good by these guys. They're good by me because, you know, at the end of the day, I want to get them as many packs as possible, make sure that it's fair, and any concern that they have, they can bring it to us and we can get it addressed and so forth. So we have that really good relationship. And in France, I mean, it's going to be weird. Obviously, I told you about the Tyrannus, the Joe Scully edition, where the goggles down, thumbs up is on the toggle switches. Like, that's the creepiest compliment I think I've ever had in this thing. And then, yeah, they'll be creepier to come for sure. You know, when these TV gigs.
The cartoon was kind of creepy, dude. The cartoon. I was like, what the fuck? Oh. That's Joe. That little creepy dude.
I walk into the gala, and I got a standing ovation, and I thought I was being punked. You know what I mean? Like, this was like whoa, you know, and the gala's just like
pop out.
Yeah, exactly. Ashton Kutcher's coming out, and all of a sudden, yeah, your wife's pregnant again or something. You know, like, and even you know, and we're shut down for an hour and 40 minutes, and every pilot, at least the 32 that think they've advanced, knows, right? And so everyone's kind of staying close to the flight line. They're not getting in the way, but they're like, you know, what's going on now and this? Well, they're looking at this information and this and that. They're talking about this and they're watching this. And so, like, so many people in French and English where they're like, Scully, you're doing a good job. I'm like, thank you. I know, it's cool. Like, we're just trying to make sure that everyone's happy, you know? And so, I mean, everything was well received. And even that guy, like, he added me on Facebook. So he thinks we're cooler than I think we'll ever be.
Right.
You know, so
and that's good. No, that's good.
Exactly. And Ursa, they want me to, it's not confirmed yet, but to do the European Cup World Finale in Ibiza at the end of September. So, I came back from Europe, like, my first time ever to Europe in my life. Just thankful, like, just for FPV. I say it all the time, but just the opportunities that this has afforded me, and it's just been so outstanding. And so FPV took me to Europe for the first time, and just Europe itself, just the food and the accommodations exceeded my expectations, and to come back and you know, just the way we were received and the way that we still continue the conversation after just blows my mind. So, you know, Europe was amazing, and the racing was, you know, top notch too.
Hey, you definitely need to, the next time you go back, take a few days to actually see the rest of Europe, because it is,
I swear, dude, that's
absolutely awesome.
France is one of those places you just gotta, you need like I don't know, you need like 2 or 3 days just on your own, you know what I mean? Just kind of like rent a car and go view the countryside. It's beautiful.
Nice.
It's something. It's one of those places you take your wife. That's exactly what it is. It's one of those.
We don't bring that up, Mr. Miyagi. So
I hear you.
I'm in trouble
in the fall, she's like, you know what? We got to take a vacation together, because we've been married now. This will be our 6th year, our 6th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
And she's like, you know, it's been awesome. 6 years of marital bliss. And so she's like, well, you know, we really should go for a vacation and a getaway. And we didn't really have a honeymoon. Let's go to France. So I'm like, you know what, honey, let's save up. She's like, I really want to go to France. I'm like, yeah, okay. And that was like November. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, we get into April, and she's like, who are you on Skype with? I'm like, oh, immersionRC. She's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to do an event for them. Where? Overseas. Where? Europe. Where? France.
You're not going. We can't afford. Listen, you're on the bad list. You're on the list. They don't forget, okay? You're on that list. You're high up on the list now.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
Hopefully the next time around they'll be able to send more of you, and hopefully you'll get some time to do there, because like literally you could take a train, you can be in like 5 continents in like 3 hours. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, or 5 countries, sorry, not continents.
And
Brussels is a nice place too, so.
That's where I flew into, Brussels, but obviously I just got to hang out in the airport. But that was like, you come through the clouds, and all you see are like to my mind, my like North American mind, like, ooh, look at the European buildings, which was like a huge insult to anywhere else in Europe, right? Because the Belgium buildings don't look like any other ones, right? So just as we go up and over top there, and I'm like, oh, look at all the pretty buildings. Now we've arrived in Europe, and it was pretty awesome.
Hey, it is awesome. All right. Back on track. Let's talk about VTXs because everybody wants to know about new VTXs because VTXs currently suck. Literally. What can you tell us? What state secrets can you reveal without getting fired?
I just go contract to contract.
Hey, that's me too. Shh.
Yeah. Would you believe that some people sign a contracts? You're not allowed to say bad things about them when you sign the contract. Would you believe that? I don't sign those contracts. Immersion has amazing stuff, and this new thing is changing the future. It is called the TNR, Tap and Race, and so think back to U.S. Drone Nationals, think back to Canadian Drone Nationals, think back to F3 Expo. Hey, pilots, we're using our VTXs, so here's a soldering station. Put this stuff in. And everyone's like, and we lost pilots because of that at F3 Expo, especially because they saw what happened at Sacramento. And even at Sacramento, we didn't know that the video was so shoddy because of all the seating around that soccer field. It wasn't until we got into, the later part of the year that we realized that you can't be in a stadium without a really high-end ground station to battle the multipathing, right? So by the time you get to it, no one wants to put these VTXs in. Anyway, we fast forward to May 2016, and everyone shows up in France, and and Immersion's like, okay, here's the soldering stations, here's some new VTXs to put in, and now France have been the crash test dummies for everything. Like you said, no comp, and the Star Wars video in the mountain bike trails there. Even the race band itself. Race band is just the terms for you guys know this, but race band is just the term for the frequency. It's not an Immersion thing. Immersion did it first. Now every VTX has race band. It's just the terminology for that band. So they were the debut of those race band ground stations in Chartres, France. So France is like the place to be the crash test dummies. So here we are in 2016. Like, let's throw in some new VTXs, and so they surprisingly were like, "Yeah, this is a great idea." Let's do this.
Let's watch a bunch of VTXs catch on fire again.
Oh shit!
Yeah, exactly.
That happens. So, I mean, that's what happened at Nationals. Everybody thought they were smart on how to wiring up everything, and they didn't realize that it was Boss Cam, and you got that Boss Cam 5-pin or 6-pin right connector, and you got the Immersion same connector. Just the two positive and the negative is crossed. So as soon as you grab the, oh yeah, it's the same cable. Look, and they go, oh yeah, no problem here, and you go.
Magic smoke.
Yep. Damn it.
So
and let's think back. And I used to have one on my desk. Think back to those Immersion race band VTXs, right? And they're like as big as a freaking cell phone. Like in VTX terms, it's the Zach from Saved by the Bell cell phone.
Exactly.
True that.
VTXs. Now, up until this point, I've done some events, and those are my loaner VTXs, and those still, in some of our most hairy situations, have the best video. Anyway, hands down. So now now they show up. We're like, hey, we got to put these new VTXs in, and fortunately, they're like a quarter of the size.
Oh, that's good.
Which is really nice, and. So they're like, okay. And then they're like, you know what, here's some instructions. There's a sensor thing that you got to put on it, and everything else is good. Just go ahead. And so everyone's like, yep, okay. So now everyone has these in their quads. And as we start to roll people out in practice, we're still testing quads. So with the FAI, you have to test everyone's video. and make sure like they're fail safes and stuff. It all has to be tested for safety and so forth. And so while we're doing this practice, we're still firing up VTXs and quads and so forth like that. So this VTX, there's a couple different things about it. As a consumer, you can flash it maybe with like a little piece of hardware or your computer and maybe your cell phone. I don't know because it was a prototype. But you can make this 25 milliwatt, 200 milliwatt, 600 milliwatt, which are the standards, or anything in between. Pick a number. You want it 69 milliwatt just to be sexy? You can.
So that's cool.
Any receiver, if your receiver can go on a channel, let's say 5769, which isn't on any of the E, F, or R bands or whatever, but at 5769, if you had a receiver that could do it, you could program that VTX. That's your channel. And that's pretty awesome, as a consumer item, and it's a small VTX, and it's calibrated too. So that 5769 at 69 milliwatts is the same as 5800 at 69 milliwatt. There's no variance. It's calibrated. So as a VTX, this thing it's already won. Now, here's where it gets crazy. It's called touch and race. Here's where it goes into a race. So you show up at a race. We have a thing called the wand. And we tap your quad, and your quad doesn't have to have a LiPo in it. We tap your quad, we own your VTX, and we now control it. You power up, and you can power up your VTXs on. It's not going to be received by a standard duo. It's going to go on to a new band called Punk Band, which is going to be able to be flashed onto duos. But basically, it's like 2 off of race band. And so when you power up, when you're in pit mode, at any time during that race, you are on this off of race band, so it doesn't interfere with race band, like 0.1 milliwatt, and you can test your camera at any time. You can actually have your quad in the lap of a pilot that's flying in the flight line, power it up, test your camera on this punk band, power it off, and you will not drop a guy out of the air. We tested well over 350 times. We had 1 quad come out of the air, and that was because we think user error, that they didn't tap the quad properly, and it actually came on race band 5 instead of this pit mode. And so we had 350 power-ups in the flight line in only 1 minute. And we think it's user error. So that on itself, in addition to this is a really cool VTX is pretty awesome. But now we take it to the next level. So we from a race manager, and again, it's crazy that a Chris Thomas, a multi-GP, and in a conversation with him, we get giddy like schoolgirls talking about this stuff. Talking with other people, they don't really get excited about it. But when you see it in action, what we're able to do with it, and when you see like once these are available, like at our next races, it'll just blow your mind at what this technology affords to us. So when you're going to race, you go to that warm-up circle, you're on the table, your quad is there, and the flight line director taps your quad. Your seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, seat 5, seat 6, seat 7, seat 8. And with this new band, seat 9, seat 10. We didn't test it fully, but we can technically do 10 seats if we wanted. So when we tap it, we're programming your quad on what channel we want it and what power we want it. So when we rolled out, we would roll out a heat, especially in our crash test dummy heats, the first couple. We rolled them out there in at 25 milliwatt, all on race bands. And after that heat, we're like, well, it was a little sketchy on the far side of the track. What happens if we flip them over to like 100 milliwatt? So the next heat we roll out at 100 milliwatt, and then we're like, let's see what the difference is. Let's roll them out at 50. And so we rolled them out at 50 milliwatt, and then we're like, let's go back to 25 milliwatt. And all the pilots need to know is the race that they're in and their seat. And so we program whatever power and whatever channel we want just by tapping their quad with the wand. And it is honestly like we had a quad, and I can't find the videos on my gimbal, but we can actually have the quad right in front of the DVR screen and literally tap it, channel seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, seat 5, which is absolutely outstanding.
So does the wand allow you to change seats and wattages, and that's what you can do to tap it? And like, I guess it just gives you like an audible feedback saying that, yeah, it confirmed it or something like that.
Exactly. And the VTX doesn't, like the quad doesn't have to be powered up. In fact, we don't want it to be powered up because when you power up, you're on whatever channel we have for seat 3, you know, right. 5760, and whatever power we've assigned. So we can, you know, maybe, you know, sometimes, you know, 8, you know, the far end of the spectrum isn't as strong as a low end, and that could be because there's an adjacent Wi-Fi that's giving you interference or something like that. We can pump that up to like 27 milliwatts, 28 milliwatts, 30 milliwatts, see if that makes a difference. We can, you know, especially if we're bouncing around, like, you know, there is an alleged harmonic with certain channels. Alleged, and I'm not an engineer, I just play one at an FPV race, but we, you know, with the separation of 37, that's race band, but if all of a sudden you're going to go down to 6 seats, you can actually create your own band. You could call it Mr. Miyagi band, because you only like to go 6 channels, and you want a 43 separation, because 43 is a good year. And so you can program all them, bang, 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 bang. And then, of course, the next generation of the Duo will have all these new bands in it, but you'll be able to tap the Duo with the...
It's awesome. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what the Duo can... We already know the Duo can do 5 gig, right? I mean, it'll do a low 5 gig, so it's we're talking about 55,000 megahertz, right? So,
yeah. So it'll go all over the map with this thing.
So, like the current Duos that are out, you said that you can upgrade them or firmware upgrade them to work with the new system, or you're gonna have to actually buy parts.
To the best of my knowledge, the that we'll be able to, they are flashable. Now, I haven't seen. I know that the engineers were flashing Duos because we this new band that we're using for testing, they called Punk Band. And, you know, they only had one Duo with Punk Band there. I'm like, dude, can we maybe get another one? They're like, oh, no, Scully, we gotta find another Duo. I'm like, we have a ton of Duos here. This is an immersion band. Like, oh, no. But I believe all the Duos are going to be like, you can flash the firmware on them. I guess like the latest one, like the 5800 V3 or whatever Duo.
V4.1.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're sponsored by Pulse, and I'm sponsored by Immersion, and I didn't know that. I feel bad.
Don't feel bad.
Again,
I do that to a lot of people.
I just play an engineer at a race. I'm not at a race. I'm in my basement. And for the sensor, like they actually have ports on the Duos that, you know, I'm guessing that sensor would go on.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it can be as simple as that, just for the Duo. But, you know, where the application where we used race bands, that's all we used. We used 8 channels, and we used those VTXs. So we never really changed the channels. Mm-hmm. But I mean, at the same time, you know, a guy goes out there and, you know, for whatever reason, you know, well, he can't be on seat 3 anymore, then bang, we'll shoot you on seat 2, you know, and this guy's now on seat 3. And so we just grab their quads and tap, and, you know, you guys can change seats, and away we go. And it's that simple. One of the cool things that we did over there, and it was crazy, like my rule, it's not a rule, but my motto, my mantra is you don't do science experiments at big events. And so
that always helps.
Here we are, we're debuting the timing system, the VTXs, and then Tony Cakes, you know, on setup days, like, have you ever run an event all on the same polarization? And I'm like, no, Tony. We always alternate it because it just gives us a little defense and a buffer, you know, between the channels. And he's like, oh, you know what we should do? What? We should just try going all right-hand polarization. I'm like, well, you know what? And I'm like, you know, we have pilots just sitting there itching to fly. I'm like, and I'm like, dude, you're the boss. Let's do it, you know? And so we ended up going all right-hand polarization. So... And it worked. It was fine because we're outdoors. Now, you know, I'd want to do the same test indoors, but, you know, here's a situation where we can easily, you know, just tell people real quick and just tap their quad and, now you're on a left-hand polarized channel and right-hand polarized channel, and bang, 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 bang. And it's so amazing, like all the different benefits from this thing. From it's calibrated, you can program it as a consumer, as a race, like from a race organization standpoint. You don't have people now on the flight line with their dip switches. You don't have people showing up, I don't know what channel I'm on, and
so annoying.
channel. You don't have, and think of Mega Drone X and the HD Challenge with Detroit Multi-Rotor Company. The best video that we had, not just line of sight, but on board, was our best, cleanest video. Everyone had the exact same VTX. And, this one here, by having, these immersion VTXs, like this is going to become the standard, I think. Every event that I'm going to have, like basically an event I'm running, I'll roll out there with these, and you can rent them or buy them. And I'm sure that, 75% of the people would buy them because
that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
It just makes sense. But like, here's the thing though. Here's the thing with immersion. You're gonna pump all of this up, and I might see one of these in about 2 years.
I know it. So now, to be fair, and I know
See,
that
I thought we was gonna be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
but
nice.
you know what?
I could have gone on any other.
Okay,
I am completely honest, and I actually took a page out of Mr. Steele and Final Glide Oss's book, and I talked bad about the race band VTX for the first time ever here tonight. Normally, I don't do that, but I don't know if you watched the Rotor Riot episode where they're going to build a 180 with with Tommy, and they just trash the immersion VTX. I'm like, right. They're supposed to be immersion guys too, and so immersion sometimes is slow to the game, of course, but and I'll tell you straight up, at the Canadian Drone Nationals, August of 2015, we tried to use an RFID timing system, and it was not compatible with the VTXs because of the DC switch and just the ball of RF that a quad now has. Yeah. And so we had to do some other stuff, and we ended up using a hand timing system, and it was really successful. But it was Tony Cakes at the Canadian Drone Nationals, who stops and says, after we figured out it wasn't going to work, he's like, well, how does that RFID system work? And we explained to him, like, well, there's like two, when you drive down the road and that sensor and you climb. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, but you cross those two right. lines, and it knows what direction you're going in. That's how the transponder thing, because it creates like almost this beam, and it reads the RFID transponder chip, and it goes to the system. He's like, okay, and then that's where he goes, what is in every quad? And I do a terrible Tony Cake impersonation, but he's like, what is in every quad? And I'm like, a motor, a couple of them. He's like, no. I'm like, oh, flight controller, yeah. He's like, no, beyond that. I'm like, oh, receiver, no. ESCs, no. Props, frame. Camera is a camera, no. Damn, I don't know what it is. How about a VTX? I'm like, yeah, there's a VTX in every quad. He's like, every one of those quads, when they cross over, they bleed like an digital signal, which we know as our SSI. And he's like, when it crosses in sensors, there's actually a peak and a valley. Right. And if we could calculate that out, then it would do exactly what your thing does, doesn't it? I'm like, yeah. And so that was mid-August 2015. And then, now we're May 2016. And that is what we used to time the largest race in the world. So going fully to market, maybe another thing. But, that is something that I'd given up on, and I'm like,
hey, you know what? No. At least it's battle proven now at this point, right?
A lot of guys have been talking about the RFID for a long time, and matter of fact, when racing first came onto the scene and everybody was looking at trying to time a race, that was the first thing that everybody went looking at. Unfortunately, at the time, it's just too expensive. The iLap is $600 for a setup, 30 pilots or whatever, then another $350. So for about $1,000, you can do a 30 pilot, lot of iLap, right? The system. That's just the
Yeah.
basic system. That's not multiple gates. That's one gate and 30 sensors. Or pingers.
Transponders.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to. Anyway, but so
I'll correct you for once.
thank you. And so with all of that being that, it still was so hard to do because you had to run all these wires, and then it's never been done before. So you got to get all these guys that know how to do computer language, to sit down in a room and talk and try to solve the problems. And then you call me, and then we go out and we try to build it, right? And then we call back and we say that don't work, and it just got to be like, you know what? Just buy a freaking iLap and it's over. The RC car guys have been using them for what, 15 years? I mean, 10. The iLap has been what, five for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But basically, the RC car guys have been using transponders and systems, timing systems, for at least the last 15 years. I know because I used to race RC cars. I got a couple carpet racers, but so it was already there.
Yeah, we used it. So at our first race in February 2015, we used MyLaps, and we actually used the RC car one, the RC3 or the RC4 hybrid. And basically it was the same system that we used at a RC car track. And in that time, there wasn't race band. So we used Fat Shark 1357, 4 in the air. And I borrowed eight of my fifth scale guys, 8 truck and buggy transponders, and used them as house transponders. We ran the race, didn't miss a lap. Missed one lap, and the guy, he was like 60 feet above the gate and dropped like perfectly straight down and through the gate, and that was the only lap it missed. It was amazing. And so actually, I saw US Drone Nationals coming out with all their paperwork, and they're coming out with like this infrared. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we used RFID, we used MyLaps. Like, MyLaps is the industry leader for NASCAR and sprint car and motocross and all this stuff. And so they use the iLaps, and it had its problems. And I'm like, see, dummies, iLaps. And then I go out with, so then I'm holding the Canadian Drone Nationals, and I'm like, and then they're like, oh, we're actually going to have 8 seats. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need 18 transponders, and there's an RC car race here in Canada. Where am I going to get those? So being the kind of guy that I am, I contacted MyLaps, and I said, here's what I'm trying to do. And hey, can I borrow some transponders? And because I had the timing system, the most expensive part of the MyLaps is the decoder box, the red box, which is $5,000 usually. Transponders are $120 a piece, but I'm like, hey, can I borrow some transponders? So like, you know what? So a few people have been talking to us about drones, and we really think you should be using this unit, which is the one that we use for marathons, the Pro Chip, and we will send you a demo unit. And so I got it, and I tested it in my backyard. I got good range. I was happy with it. And then we flew it with some quads. Everything was great. Then all of a sudden, them new race band VTXs got put in there, and it missed laps like crazy. And what we found was there's a DC switch on the VTX. So like it worked on the old quads, but not the new quads. And so there we're using, in February, we're doing 275 millimeter quads. Now we're down to 180s, right? 220s and 180s. So the quads are smaller, and there's just all this RF coming off this thing. It creates a Bermuda Triangle, and they couldn't cut through. So MyLaps had their whole media team on standby, and we were live streaming this race, even though I'm not a fan of live streaming all the time, but their media team was on standby, and then all of a sudden they're like, give us the word, and then the word never came. And I followed up with them on like the Tuesday, and I'm like, yeah, critical failure, dude, it's critical failure. And so they're like, oh no. So then they sent a dude to a race that I did in September, because that was August, in September in Ohio, and he tested a whole bunch of gear, and almost everything that he tested didn't work. And the only thing that he had left to test was a motocross one, which weighs like it's like twice the size of a GoPro, and it weighs like 3 GoPros. He's like, I want to put this on a quad to test it. And Joe Estes from Ready Made RC, he's like, you're not putting that on a quad. Get out of here. And so then they, so that was September. And then in November, the head office for MyLapse is actually like in Belgium or something like that, Netherlands. And but they have an Atlanta, USA office. So F3 Expo, they came with a prototype to test. And their prototype was basically the motocross one, gutted down and as light as possible. And so while we were over, I don't even know what we were doing. I think we were doing Thunder Drone in the Georgia Dome. They were testing at the Georgia World Congress Center this new prototype. And actually, our friend Bulbafit, Paul was the crash test dummy with this thing. And it caught every one of his laps.
Oh, really?
But
cool.
Immersion now moving faster than MyLapse, and we've never seen anything come out of the MyLapse camp on it. And now this Immersion, everyone has a VTX in it. This is the solution for timing. So that's a game changer. So unfortunately, yeah. I'm looking at it that I think for once I have that unit, I'm gonna probably run in duplicate with both of them and use the iLapse as a backup, at least for the first,
Yeah, because
10,
you got to be careful,
5,
right?
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you don't need judges, right? So did he hit 3 laps? If you get it on infrared and you have it on RF, then you're good to go. And all it is, it's looking for that. Here comes the quad, and the cool thing is we made a lot of history over there again with the Vince McMahon. We created our own thing, racing freestyle. No one's ever done that before. First ever freestyle at night. No one has ever done that before. 173 pilots. We also raced 9 at a time, and the 9th pilot was using Kinect's HD digital, and the timing system caught that. The guy.
Nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Because it's nice to be able to work with other people's things, because not everybody's going to have, all immersion stuff. And, it is what it is. And listen, I'm an immersion vendor too, okay? So I'm not trying to trash them, but every vendor has problems keeping up, and every vendor, if they have a good product, once they have a good product, they can't spool up fast enough. So it's one of those things where if you do have a good product, it would still take a year for everybody to actually get the thing, because everybody's ordering it, and it's like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have your digital 30 connections.
Well, everybody's. It seems like everybody got a damn Triumph, right?
That's true.
Seems like everybody's got a damn TBS Triumph.
Hey,
well, that's the best antenna out there. So
it is. It's
right now, right? Okay.
That took a little while too. Even a simple antenna, it took a few months for everybody to actually even get one.
Yeah, because what was it? Really, that antenna was debuted when?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Nationals.
It was at Nationals?
Yeah, it was. What happened to the molar? What happened to the molar? That's got to be it. Remember that antenna, the molar?
I wasn't at Nationals, bro.
It looks like a molar, dude. It does look
that's exactly it, dude. That's the molar. That's the molar from Nationals, dude.
So you're proving my point. It'll take another year before somebody will get
exactly. But I'm just saying that's what happens,
It took them 3 years to come up with that, and it is a thing of beauty. The Triumph. It took them like Trappy and Alex working back and forth 3 years to design that thing and get it rolled out. And it's a great antenna, out to market was pretty quick. It is amazing.
Yep. And I'm not a big fan of spending a lot of money on antennas, because the amount of VTXs and quads you can destroy is amazing. But you know what? Everybody that I've heard from said this is a pretty amazing antenna, and it's worth upgrading.
Well,
Oh,
yeah, I agree. I've built a couple of antennas, and coming from the CB background, having that where we build most of the stuff we build it our own selves, so because you just can't find something to hold 10,000 watts, at the CB,
What were
so
you building? Okay, stop building death rays, okay?
Listen, I mean, I can tell you, my Suburban at one time could put out, 10 grand, 10,000 watts, and I have been on the FCC watch list. I've been chased by the magic white van. You know what I'm talking about,
You're
Scully,
still on it.
because you know exactly what I'm talking about. That white van that come looking for you behind when you're out in the middle of nowhere. Got that quad beam set up off the back with the two. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I am Dr. Audio, the number 2 man in the Great Northwest Corner. I just got down.
From the number. Okay, help.
Yeah. Anyway,
but sign right there.
So anyway, but yeah, out of my Suburban, homie. I'm no joke. I've been doing RF for a long time. My dad's a ex-military radio technician, and I grew up in a TV shop. And my dad says I'm the only person he knows that sees RF. So
wow.
Yes.
Anyway, but I take that as a great compliment from my father. He's a very smart and wise man. He's given me a lot of insight over the whole electronic world. Yeah. Anyway, but so with those things, I mean, with that knowledge, I look at the antennas that we have the capability of moving forward, dude. There's things out there that's been done before that just needs to be manipulated toward the span, right? One of the greatest things that I remember about 6-7 years ago, a guy brought a Yagi, antenna out and had it on 1.3, and dude, he just kept flying. And we were like standing there with our mouths all open because he just kept going, And it was just amazing to see him go 10 miles on a Yagi, on 800 milliwatts, 1.3. So there's other things out there, and this hobby, this sport is constantly changing. It's constantly being manipulated, and we are all on the forefront of a great and wonderful spectator sport in the future, which really the spectator part hasn't really even started to play in effect yet. I mean, really, we just giving our spectators little tidbits, right? I mean, really, you're trying to entertain the pilot when you're directing the race while entertaining the audience. But really, the hardest part, as we all keep saying, is how do you translate what is going on with the race to the spectator? Because that's the person that's going to spend the money, right? I mean, the real money. That's why the TV gets involved. That's ESPN is picking up nationals now, and their whole point right now until nationals is trying to figure out how to involve all the spectator aspirations that they get out of NASCAR, Formula One racing, dune buggy. One of my favorites is up here in Oregon. They have those little sprint boats, and they're like cruising in like 5 feet, not even 5 inches of water, and they're just hauling ass, ripping back and forth through the curves. One of those things, those things, if we could just figure out how to do those things, man. I mean, that.
Okay. You go work on that. Here's what I want to work with Scully on. See, one thing that I would like to see from every event, not just mine, is what I would like to see is like Scully talks a lot about the time in between heats, right? 7 minutes, 5 minutes, right? A lot of the times, I think that time spent is actually wasted because we don't have anything to talk to about the pilots. So like I think events needs to start building up some raw footage of just one-on-one talking points to the pilots so that they can B-roll those in between those heats, because a lot of times I spend most of my time talking to people that don't track this on a daily basis, right? And like, people may know Brain Drain, people may know Big Whoop because they advertise, Big Whoop anyways, they advertise constantly, right? It's like,
I still got the sticker on my damn
I know. So we need to start rolling in some ESPN does it all the time, right? Like when they're about to spotlight a racer, right? There's like years of B-roll footage of them talking on one-on-one interviews in which the audience can get to know them in like 30 seconds.
Right.
That's something.
Got to tell a story.
Yeah, that's something. Not just the event organizers. That's all event organizers need access to that and be able to pull from that repository to say, hey, you know what? These set of pilots are coming up. Let's roll in some B-reel footage of the next heat so that the audience can see who's actually racing, so that they can actually be engaged and root for somebody. Because
True.
Because a lot of times, you'll know the top 3 pilots, okay, but what about the other 80? Because they're going to fill up the majority of your time.
And some of those guys have amazing stories,
Yes.
So, like your story, Joe. I mean, that's an amazing story, the life and death thing, and all of that. That's amazing. That award you got sitting behind you on your right-hand side, that's amazing. 2007 International Finals Rodeo Contract Audio Showcase Announcer Champion right
He's
there.
got good eyes.
He's
got good eyes.
Yeah. I wear glasses for a reason, so I can see.
We all wear glasses, actually.
I think from a production standpoint, I mean, I'm really trained in that, and we tried to do that XDC2 in Las Vegas, but there we had critical malfunctions of everything, from our timing transponders bouncing off the glass and hitting our timers, and then we started shuffling seats like crazy because we'd run the whole event with 6 seats, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're live streaming, we can only use 4. And so I couldn't focus on that entertainment aspect, which is really what I excel at. I mean, I'm a good guy in that captain's chair and I can push it through. But when there's an audience, in the interviews and stuff, and I think that's a big part of it. And that's where we needed a little more resources with FPV Live.tv, on this past one. I think if, moving forward, we've proven ourselves. Now they've proven themselves with their stats and so now I think we can get a few more. I think there's huge value. I think there's huge value in being able to have your commercial played once an hour to 9,500 engaged viewers that aren't leaving that live stream. Is it 1 million on ESPN that they're going to blast into their homes? No. But there's 9,500 people that are really interested in FPV racing that,
who are locked in. Who are locked
in.
And don't forget that, this is one of the things I said to Todd, is that these people are willing to pay to get that premium output, right? To get that live stream that they don't have to worry about it going out. They don't have to worry about the flicker. They don't have to worry about the delay. That they know what they're seeing is actually what's going on. So, with that, I think that's where ESPN is looking at in the future, right? I mean, basically all of these companies is looking in the future going, if we can get somebody to come in and say even $5 a race, say right now, I mean, if I would pay $5 a race to watch the Megadrone X, to watch that, what I seen, that I was there, so I can tell you that I would watch that. That was the kind of racing that we wanted at Nationals. Yeah, that was the kind of racing that we kind of got a little taste. We got a little taste at F3. We got a little taste, and it was
Very
a
little
good taste, right?
Yeah.
That was a good taste. And then we Megadrone accomplished it. The Florida guys, they've been doing their thing for months, right? They've been knocking races out, bang, 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 but nothing really stung the market and surprised everybody. And also, the track had a lot to do with it. You know, it wasn't overcrowded. No. Like there was a race held not too long ago, and a couple of days ago, it looked like it was too much stuff.
Where are you gonna pass? Where are you gonna pass?
Yeah, you know. Exactly. So, yeah, you either was in the lead, or like after the first lap, everybody had their spot, right? You couldn't pass nobody, you couldn't go around nobody because the obstacles of the course to keep you in line was so tight that you couldn't do nothing. If you moved too far, you either hit each other or you washed one out. Somebody went into one of the lights. So it was kind of but you know what? Everybody's moving forward, right? We're figuring things out.
Like you said, we're learning from the other one, you know, Florida and even, you know, the events that I do, like in Canada, we don't live stream them. You guys don't see them, but you know, you see our recap videos and we're pounding them out. Like when I'm losing my temper, you know, in France, in Kentucky, in Florida, and I ran an event in Florida and I'm like, I thought you guys were better than this, guys. Come on, you know? It's just I have a heightened matter of expectations. Like we don't wait, you know, like, very like I had a top Florida pilot, you know, show up on the wrong channel for his last race. You know, he was a top qualifier for. Like, are you kidding me? Where this isn't your first rodeo, dude. But you know, with the I think moving forward with FPVLive.tv, we have the resources there, but you know, they came in on a slimmer budget, really, you know, to make it happen. You know, had there been budget, which there wasn't, but had there been budget, they would have come in with another camera guy. And with just one more person, they would, you know, that was in their original plan. You know, it got cut. But, you know, you saw a glimmer of what could be there. And, you know, I don't want to give my entire playbook out here because obviously Wise podcasts get talked to a lot. But, you know, our next event with FPVLive.tv, we would have Todd and we would have Scully and we would be flipping back and forth. So between the races, you're not hearing me like going, you know, come on, Buttercup, let's get out there. You know, you're listening to Todd, like, you know, why I was saying these guys have great stories and, you know, instead of having canned, like actually interviewing Brain Drain or interviewing just anybody, like, what was the guy with the website, MikeWelsh.com? Like, what is MikeWelsh.com? I still don't know. You know, just interviewing.
He is a good guy.
And then all of a sudden, and we did that at F3 Expo, like, and that was really like a big spark of with Todd, myself, and Chris Toombs with FPVLive.tv. So, you know, we got into it there. We just didn't have the resources and the capabilities in the cave. I mean, just technology too. We're limited on power.
Right.
But like I said, you know, filling, you know, my focus as a race director is getting those gaps tighter. And then we need to focus and FPVLive.tv is already good at that. But, you know, filling those 4.5 minutes that Scully says nothing's going to be flying, filling that with content and, you know, and switching back and forth. Like, you know, Todd does a pretty good job of calling a race, but I'd like to think I'm good at that. So let me call the races and then boom, throw them back to him to the interviews. And then Todd and I, like, geez, after that event, we went to like Applebee's, Todd, me, Chris, and my team, David and Thunder. Thunder and Viking, and I mean, we just laughed and told stories before we went to the Big Whoop House on Sunday night. And just, you know, we get along great, you know. And I don't know if you remember, I was killing time with Todd Wall because we were live streaming, and you know, basically I'm talking to Phil the live stream, and we're setting things up between the two practice rounds of the team race, and I just started talking to Todd. I'm like, you know what? If this race was for like a really big prize, he's like, yeah. I'm like, you know when I would have done this? He's like, what? I'm like, Monday. He's like, Monday. And I did like this, you know, 5-minute speech of how I would plan for a team race for a really big prize. And it had some pretty good digs and jokes and humor in it. But I was being truthful of how I would approach any event like that. And so, you know, having that vibe of Todd and I know we're itching to work together again. I know Chris Thomas and I are itching to work again. I think we're going to have an opportunity in July. Nothing's confirmed yet, but I think the second weekend in July, he and I are together. Maybe FPVLive.tv at that one. And then I know when we get around to the fall, there'll be, many more events like F3 Expo is coming back. We don't know where, but we think it's the same weekend. And I think, FPVLive.tv hit it out of the park, and their gear combined with my gear, that's how that stats were there. And Todd is just such a dynamic dude. And with my race,
yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I think we'll break the 10,000 the next time. And again, I
hope so. It's always
9,500 views, and we didn't pay a cent. We didn't even really promote it, right? Because FPVLive.tv was just such a last minute thing. We're like, you know what, I don't know what the group gave them, but I think it was like their rooms and maybe a meal or something. But it's like, come on down if you can. If you can't, we understand it. Like, you know what, we see the magic in this. We're gonna do everything we can to make it happen. And they're seeing the benefit from it. They're getting the calls and the emails that we're getting too. So
everybody that was there as a sponsor or vendor surely got a lot of play on being there. Drone Eclipse guy, the Detroit Motor guys,
I'm sorry,
Heli Nation.
Yep.
Heli Nation, all those guys, they got a lot of love from the guys that were there, that's for sure.
I'm telling you this right now. Yeah, Atmospheric Adventures, Get FPV, there's a lot of them, but the one person that actually made out like a bandit was actually the primary sponsor, TBS. They literally got so much, I got so many people was like, you know what, I should have gotten that. Because, they got so much pub that was just, it was astronomical. They underpaid by, 3,000%, I swear. But, but you know what? It was a good event. So, we're hitting, we're well over. Scully, before we leave, do you have a funny story you want to tell? Especially drunk ones.
Oh, well, you know what? Would you believe I have one? So, it was over in France, and this gala. Now, the gala, this is weird, and this is the third FPV race that has done this. They have this big awards type banquet type thing between Saturday and Sunday, between the qualifying round and the main rounds, which makes no sense. But we're at this big gala. We sit down. It's a buffet, and so we got your salads and your chicken and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, I want some dessert. And so I go strolling up in line there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, cheesecake. I haven't had cheesecake in ever, man. Yeah, get me some of that. And there's a big ass slice out of this thing. And this gala is for 155 people. There's a big ass slice. And I'm like, I'm going to get me some of that. So I take about the same size out, and I'm walking back with this thing. And everyone in line's looking at me like I'm the biggest dick in the world. What are you doing? And I'm like, what? Are you mad at my cheesecake? There's some up there. I didn't take it all. Jeez, they're just all staring at me, right? And I'm like, this is so weird. So then I sit down at my table, and I'm sitting with guys from America and the UK, anyone who speaks English, and we're sitting at this table, and I got my fork and my knife out there, and I'm ready for some cheesecake, and the table's all looking at me, and they're like, Scully, what are you doing there? I'm like, just having some dessert, guys. They're like, you sure? You gonna eat all that? I'm like, I will. And they're like, you sure you can eat all that? I'm like, for sure, man. I love cheesecake. And they're looking at me. So then all of a sudden, I cut it. I'm like, wow, that's a little aggressive, a little tough. And then I take a bite out of it. It's like brie. I took off a $55 hunk of brie, thinking it's cheesecake. And I mean, that big slice, 155 people ate slice number 1, and I took slice number 2. You know what I mean? That was probably the brie for the resort for the week, and I just I'm gonna take me some of that. So then, and I'm a waste not want not kind of guy. So
you ate all it.
No, I would never go to the washroom again. You know what I mean? Right. That's a lot of brie, dude. It was a $55 chunk of brie.
That's
it was as big as my head, for crying out loud. So I took it down to the flight lines. So remember, we had daytime course, then we had nighttime course, FPV light tracks, and that would go to 3 a.m. plus. So We went down to the flight line. We have the whiskey, we have the beer, and we have the brie. And everyone, we had some props, some HQ props there that were smashed up, and everyone would use an HQ prop and cut themselves off a little bit of brie and have some whiskey and do a little FPV racing on FPV. Yeah, isn't it a good experience? And that was my night. Oh yeah.
And he learned his lesson. He made.
That's not cheesecake.
That's your hashtag. That's not cheesecake.
Don't you know they don't bring the cheesecake out for big events?
No, it's a special treat.
Yes, that's when you go to their house, you get the cheesecake.
That's funny.
Your guest.
Oh man, okay, this was a good podcast. We definitely talked more than our normal fill. So like everybody knows you, but go ahead and Scully, where are you on the internet? Go ahead and tell our audience.
So you can find me at FPV Racing Events. That's our website, and that's also our handles on almost everything: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, FPV Racing Events, and our YouTube channel, FPV Racing Events 250. And you can also Google me, Joe Scully Drone Racing, and looking forward to growing with this industry and seeing people at a whole bunch of different events on my horizon in my short-term future here. Mid-June, I have a big race in Canada, which is my series championships on the 18th, 19th. Then I think July 8th, 9th, 10th weekend, I'm going down to Florida for a multi-GP regional championship, which I'm really hoping would be awesome. Then we're hosting the Canadian DRL, not the DRL, the Canadian DRL, no relation. And not my name, but I'm running it. That's in Edmonton, Alberta. That is total cowboy country in Canada. So north of Montana, north of like Washington in Canada, up in Edmonton, Alberta, July 29 and 30. And then our next big race here in Canada, which we're inviting anybody and everybody to, it's August 19 to 21. And it's formerly the Fat Shark Frenzy, formerly the Canadian Drone Nationals. But we are going to try and call it the Fat Shark Drone Olympics, where we're hoping 2 ski hills, and one will be a wing course, one will be a multi-rotor course, and we also have like a 3-kilometer long-range mountain-to-mountain event that we would do with wings and stuff like that. That should be released in the next 2 weeks. It's in a resort town, and the camping is going to be. Camping is cheap, and we're still trying to see if we can get this resort right beside it, so the rooms are right there.
I might have to go get my passport updated now, buddy.
Yeah, dude, it'll be. And the thing too, in all, we learn from every single event, whether it's ours or others. And CFL FPV meet, which is one of the longest running FPV meets in America. When I went down there, they had an FPV meet with a little bit of racing. And I got to be the host of all of that. Group number 3, your 15 minutes is now. Come get your badges. Got to do that on top of racing. That was an exciting weekend. It was actually an outstanding weekend to be in Florida in February for a Canadian. But what I saw there was magical, as much as it sounds crazy that an FPV meet was magical. But it was so magical that I'm going to take that to this event, because it is part competition and it's part fun fly. And so we are going to divvy up the band. And so for a majority of practice and qualifying, it's going to be old school 4-and-4, so that we can have our heats going ba-bang, 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 using 4 seats of probably race band. And then the other 4 seats, everyone's there doing their 15-minute time slots with their wings, their quads, their aerial videography. And so that one on paper is going to be an outstanding experience, and that is in mid-August here in Canada, Ontario, Canada, and everybody's invited. In fact, you know what, Mr. Miyagi and Y, you guys have qualified for the Fat Shark Drone.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! I can't win more stuff. Jesus, I can't take it. My heart is gonna stop.
Hey,
my wife is
you laugh.
I
might try to make it up there just to give you hell, just so I can periscope it and give Scully hell.
I'm thinking it's gonna be fun. 3 miles FPV long range. That sounds
You know
right
what?
up my alley. I love wing stuff, dude.
It's right
Yeah.
over a park. I periscoped it out. We'll cut the videos out, but it's on one ski hill, and you go over like a country road, and then it's all trees, no buildings, no nothing, and there's like a big white face mountain on the other side. And so what we want to do is like mountain bike up there and like cut a runway. So when you go long range, then you land and then you come back. Like it's going to be like, we need to know that you've gone to the mountain and back. Right. So yeah, totally. And that's one event, you know, like you create a team. It's the Olympics, you know what I mean? And, and we're like,
to the mountain
totally
and
can have fun with it. Yeah, exactly. That's the mountain event.
Hey,
and
you
then
know what?
you know,
You
Put Moses up there.
No, you should totally. What you should do? Okay, so I'm just gonna ruin your plan, so I'm giving you another idea to think about. You should do like the Iron Man, right? So you have one part wing, you land. Next part quad, you land, and then you need to think of something else to finish it up.
a bike
Or two quad.
bicycle.
Two quad.
I don't know. I'm just saying that would be kind of interesting. I know
That would be good. That would be an event on its own too, right? So you got the long range thing is one thing, and then you got that kind of like a biathlon, triathlon type thing, and yeah, we definitely want to do that. That is fun, and you know, like the teams aren't
A long
won't be
range
Canada,
team
America.
pit.
Oh yeah,
Where you go like 10 miles down the road.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I would love to go to an event where like I'm not actually organizing the event. Then I can just heckle Joe Scully. I'll get him to actually hit me on live stream. I'll just heckle
How are
him
them?
all day.
How are them 7-minute cycles there, Scully?
Yeah.
I'll grab the mic and I'll start talking shit.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, booey.
All right, Mr. Miyagi, you got anything to add before we end the session?
I can say Portland Multi-Rotor Racing, our multi-GP chapter, is up and running. We just got an influx of some cash to put toward the new gates, and we're waiting for new flags to show up. Come on out. Anybody in the Portland metropolitan area, we cater to the newbies. That's what we do. We'll walk you through your first flight. We'll give you the opportunity to finish. We're not going to rush you through things. We're going to help you progress so that one of these days when you do go to a big race, you're ready. And that's what I'm truly about that. I'm truly about the new pilots. We're about to have a team come up from Portland Multi-Rotor Racing, and two of the team members are going to be under the age of 15 years old. So I'm looking to get these two kids sponsored and see what they can do in the future. I'm really, really excited about this because this is how you proceed to the next level, right? To the next level, to the next phase. So I'm looking forward to it. And anybody that's raced with us before, come on out. We're looking to have some fun.
Awesome.
On Sundays.
Portland.
On Sundays.
Yep. So Mr. Miyagi is living up to his name, and all you need now is a shoe sponsor. So the next time you're on national TV, you'll have a shoe sponsor when they look at your feet. You know.
Right. Yeah, because that's all they really saw.
Ouch. Too soon, man. Too soon.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was too close.
See, only friends will hit you that low. You know what I mean? Not just in the balls, but from behind, so you don't see it coming.
You know, you should have wore a pair of Nikes. You know, that's $1 million contract right there.
Oh boy!
And we are ending on that.
All right.